Hi, everybody, and welcome back. I've sort of been racking my brain about a new topic to address with you guys. We've done a little mix of things. We've done some how-tos. We've dealt with some poetry, looked at poetry and quotes and how the ideas can affect our life and improve them. We've looked at some spiritual stuff. Today I wanted to do one that's a little more practical in nature, and this one is aimed at all age groups. It's aimed at the middle schoolers, the high schoolers, the college students, and the professionals. And this is on conversation, on speaking with people. You'd be surprised. A lot of people report that they feel uncomfortable talking to other human beings. In fact, the number one reported fear, ahead of the fear of death, is the fear of public speaking. The fear of getting up in front of people and sharing and talking, be it a presentation at work, teaching a course, rallying for a cause, singing a song, whatever it may be. A lot of people worry about that. We're not going to get into public speaking today. We're going to take it down a notch, make it a little bit more manageable, and we're going to talk about conversation. So I heard a friend of mine say to me the other day, he's like, I don't want to go to this party. It's always the same conversation. We're almost 40 years old. Everybody talks about the same thing, their kids, their car, their golf game, their vacation, da-da-da-da-da. And I said, yeah. Kind of nodded my head at him, And I got that kind of weird look in my eye. I was like, but... And he's like, you're doing that thing again. He's like, I hate when you do that thing. And I'm like, well... I said, you know what I'm going to say? And he's like, it doesn't have to be that way. I say that a lot to the people I know. It doesn't have to be that way. And so he said, well, then what do we do, man? What do we do? You know, you're so smart, right? You smart ass. Like, what do we do then to improve that situation? You know, the boredom in conversations. I'll give you an example. One of the best things to do is to ask questions that you really want to know the answer to. That you do. Don't worry about them. Ask a question that you really want to know the answer to. Here's one of my favorite ones to ask. I love to ask people, what's the most adventurous thing you've ever done? They go, me? No, I'm boring. I'm nothing. No. And I say, no pass. No one's that boring. Everyone had a youth. Everyone had a past. There must have been something you've done that was adventurous, that was fun, that was different. Sometimes you notice they are having trouble too. You think it's just you having trouble with conversation. It's the other person too. What those questions do, a question like, what's the most adventurous thing you've ever done? That's what's called an access. That creates an access. It opens up a little window, because what it does is, if this circle I'm drawing with my finger, if this is just all the regular old conversation that my buddy was talking about, the golf game and the movie you saw and what your kids did and blah, 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 the boring stuff, quote unquote, that's sort of always flowing around in like a big gray bubble. The access point is kind of like a little bit of a bright light. Whoop! Whoa! What was that? Whoa, adventurous thing. It makes the other person think. They have to look into their past. And then they have to find what that adventurous thing is. And if they really don't want to answer the adventurous thing, then you can change it. And you can say, all right, what's the silliest thing you've ever done? And that can elicit something. Another great one. Another great question. And you're going to hear, a lot of these are questions, because that's how you create an access. You don't make a statement. A statement like closes a door. You know, I think the color blue is awesome. Well, okay. You know, I'll have another taco. Another question is, oh my God, it just went out of my head. What did I say? I forgot what I was going to say. Another question is, what are you the most passionate about? How's that for a recovery? I was getting nervous there. We're going to have to edit that one out now, so just take a note. What are you the most passionate about? That question can jar people in a good way, because nobody ever asks it. Although we live in an age with a ton of media. We call it social media, right? Social, the implication being, let's have a talk, let's have an exchange, back and forth, right? Nobody cares about anybody else's story, or so it seems. One of the most difficult things of being in your 30s in general, and for me it was more so in the beginning, now I don't give a crap, but in the beginning it was more so, some people get promoted, some people don't, some people have a home, like a nice house, some people live in a crappy apartment, some people have a Beamer, some people have a... What happens is your socioeconomic status, that's what we're talking about here, starts to get sort of, not solidified, but established. It can always change. There are millionaires who become paupers, paupers who become millionaires, but it starts to get put out there, you know, like this is, we're middle class, we're lower class, we're upper class. And that causes tension in conversations. Also, the political stuff really starts to come to the surface. I'm Democrat. I'm Republican. You know, this has been a hyper polarized election year in the United States. Not going to get into any of that in this video, but just as an example. So, a question like that, what are you the most passionate about? It breaks down those walls, and it shows the other person, wow, maybe this guy actually gives a crap. I'm going to tell you something. This is true. I'm not trying to brag. I've gotten good at this because I've practiced this over time. And I'm trying to share with you how to do it. I get told all the time, you're one of the most interesting people I've ever met. In one of my job interviews, I got told that there was a group interview, 6 people interviewing me at the same time, and I told them some of my stories. And I had them engaged, and I was talking to them and asking about themselves. And at one point, one of them laughed. This girl named Samantha, she was so funny. She's like, I thought we were conducting the interview. You know, like, you can get conversation going such that if you let your personality flow, who you really are, what you really believe in a gentle way, in a kind way, in a non-confrontational way, you're going to watch all the people around you are going to open up too, because human beings are funny. When one of us starts to truly express ourselves, not just, rant and rave about politics or give your big fancy opinion about a movie, but really share from your core, like I am with you guys right now. Like you can tell, this is who Justin is. Here he is. Hello. That gives other people around you permission to do the same thing. It's subconscious. They're thinking, whoa, well, this guy's doing it. And you can see their face go. They get excited because in their workplaces, they can't. Sometimes in their families, they can't. Or they won't. It depends. Work can be more of a can't. Families maybe a can't or a won't. It's tough out there. To me, one of the biggest ironies in the communication age, the digital age, right, is that you can't frickin' say anything to anybody. Louis C.K., the comedian, I love that guy. He's like first on my list of people I'd want to have dinner with. So Louis, if you're watching, man, God bless you. You are the bomb. Keep it up. And I'd love to take you out for a steak. So he mentions that in one of the episodes, the one where it's one of the ones with Pamela. Him and Pamela are standing in the window of his apartment. Her son named Sir came over to play with Lily and Jane, his daughters, and all the little kids passed out because they're so tired. And so mom and dad are having a glass of wine by the window smoking a cigarette. And Louis mentions that because he's in his 40s. That's the decade I'm going into, and I'm fascinated by his world because I'm headed at it. And he says, yeah, you can't say anything to anyone. And what he means by that is not physically, of course you can talk to people. He means that the exchange of conversation starts to die. No one's interested in what the other person has to say. And that's why he loves Pamela so much, is because Pamela listens to him. And he listens to Pamela, and they make that connection. And what I'm trying to tell you guys right now is that connection is so fundamental to humanity. It's so fundamental to who we are as people. We need that connection. We need to feel the vibes of the other person. We need to know their stories and who they are and what they're up to and what they're all about. And we can get access to that by creative questions. What's your passion? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? When you were a kid, who were you? When you were a 20-year-old, who were you? Now that you're 35, who are you? Who do you want to be? If you could pick one problem in the world and erase it and solve it, what would it be? If you could improve one technology for all of us, what would it be? If you could change one thing about the schools, what would it be? If you could change one thing about your company, what would it be? That if you could change one thing, people love that question. You know why? They love it because A, it shows that you care about what they think, and B, people love expressing their opinion to someone who cares about what they think. And some of this stuff I'm saying, you might say, yeah, why are you repeating this to me? It's because it bears repeating. My own evidential, circumstantial experience, anecdotal. My own anecdotal experience, just my own two eyes and ears, out there in the world perceiving, show me that there's a big lack. I was on the train the other day. It's called the Red Line in Boston. Guess what color it is? And so I'm on the Red Line, and the train is going from Davis Square, which is in Somerville, Massachusetts, to Harvard Square, where Harvard University is in Cambridge. And so I get off at Harvard Square because there's this little cafe there called Cafe Algiers that I absolutely love. They serve this wonderful mint tea, and they have all the hummus is out of this world. They've been there for years. I used to go there with a girlfriend of mine when I was 17. She showed it to me, and I still go. I learned this from her 20 years ago that I was there, and I still go. And so on the train's chugging along, and I realize, whoa, this is weird. I'm like one of the oldest dudes in my train car. It happens to be a train car full of like 20-somethings. And maybe some high school students. And I was like, maybe there was like a 50-year-old guy over here, but I'm like one of the oldest dudes in the train. I'm like, oh, God, that fucking sucks. Sorry about that. This kind of stinks. And so the kids are all there, and they're like this. Like, here's their cell phone. They're for like a 25-minute train ride. And I kid you not one of them looked up. And I know on the train, people aren't going to be talking to each other all the time. Like, hey, buddy, what's going on? People don't do that. But seeing their faces like honed into this thing for 25 minutes, it's like going underwater without coming up, taking a breath. And it just kind of freaks me out a little bit. And then I notice, on job applications, employers say something that they're looking for is people with strong communication skills, strong interpersonal skills. They're not calling it that anymore. That's an old term, apparently. That's what it was called in the 90s and early 2000s when I was looking for jobs for the first time. They call it emotional intelligence now. That's the new phrase, or EIQ or something like that, emotional IQ. It's all the same stuff. It's knowing how to talk to people and knowing how to deal with people. That's never going to change no matter what they decide to call it. And so if you're someone who finds yourself struggling with these things, I don't want you to beat yourself up. Okay, you're talking to a guy who's trilingual, who cultivated that through study and travel to 19 different countries over the course of his life, that was self-financed, and who spent time focusing on communication, whose business is all about communication, who's been a communication officer in a consulting firm. Like, you're talking to a guy, this is my area, dude. Okay, I know this area, man. Okay, groovy, man. Like, I got this down. And I'm telling you 100% certainty, questions are the access. Don't go in there spouting opinions, making statements, nothing declaratory. I think me. I believe me. No. In fact, as much as you can, here's a game you can play with yourself. Try to avoid using the word I when you talk to someone as much as possible. Try to create your sentences around that word. You can still talk about yourself, but try to use I as little as possible. And you'll see when you start to train your brain this way, you get more creative as a person. And you're going to find, too, that you become more charming as a person. Whether you're male, female, indifferent, you become more charming as a human being because the other person picks up on it. We have in the United States right now, the people who are in like their mid-40s to mid-50s, that generation, that 10-year block, they're being referred to as by demographers as what's known as the me generation. And they're called the me generation because some of their characteristics are they have very strong egos, which has positive and negative. They have they're very concerned about their own career, their own life, their own world. They're very inward-looking people. I've worked for a lot of them, and some of them have been nice. Some of them have had gigantic egos, and I guess you can say that's the same for any human being. But it's no curiosity to me, no wonder to me that this label, the me generation, gets put on them. And you can hear it in the conversation. This is a generalization, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. The usage of the word I. It'll sound something like this. I went on vacation and I had a great cheeseburger, and the cheeseburger that I had was at a restaurant called Joe's, and I had the ketchup at Joe's on the cheeseburger that I had, and I did da. And it's okay, fine. You listen to this story about the cheeseburger they had, and you're going... And what that is you're waiting for the thing of value. In communication, saying I, it leaves your listener wanting something. They're like, and then what happened in the story of life? It leaves the other human being kind of confused and curious as to what else there is, because all of us know that we're tuned into a gigantic, beautiful planet in an infinite universe. We know this in the core of our beings. It affects every aspect of our communication, how we speak to people, how we deal with people, how we create relationships. And so when it's just I, me, that's okay. People will listen. They'll say, uh-huh, mm-hmm. And then it kind of runs out of steam, and that feeling you get, the feeling when you connect. When you made that best friend for the first time in high school or college, and you met each other and you're like, hey, man, hey, you're the man. No, you, bro. Nah, you're the man. Or like for the ladies, like, she's just like a sister to me. I don't know. She's amazing. That feeling is that connection. It's the sharing feeling. It's built into us. I'll leave you with a little fun fact, and I'm going to close off the video. Did you know, true story, if a man is left alone long enough in a solitary confinement prison cell with no physical pain, enough food, comfortable bedding, clothing, warm, controlled environment, just alone in that room, never seeing anyone, like the guard puts the food under the door in a little tray with no conversation, eventually that man will die. We can die from solitude and not talking. We can die from it. Something in our mind just kind of turns off our brain. We just kind of give up. It's because we need each other. So remember, points of access. Ask questions. Questions you want to know the answer to. When you get interested in your own questions, they're going to sense it, and they're going to start vibing off of you, and then pretty soon the two of you will be riffing like old jazz musicians from the French Quarter in New Orleans. No problem. So please, again, guys, comments, criticisms, questions, concerns, anything in the bottom, the comments down there would be greatly appreciated. You guys are wonderful. And I always got to say this at the end, like if any of these things I discuss, if you are struggling with this stuff, remember two things. I'm not perfect. I'm just trying to share what I've learned in life to help. And number two, there's nothing wrong with you. Just remember that. Struggling with something doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. Don't collapse those two ideas on each other. It's something that most people do way too often and end up, beating the crap out of themselves. So remember, you're great. You're doing a great job. You're trying your best. Just keep going one step at a time. Thank you very much, guys, and see you next time. Bye.